Hello everyone, and welcome to what is the introduction episode, I suppose, of the Rampage Racing tournament. I thought I'd show how things work and how I've made the world, because that should help you understand exactly why some of the rules are as they are. Let's just show you. Let's get right into it. So first, factions, there's the race manager. And these are all of the racer factions, and the race manager is the only one that has vehicles in it. This is a trap, and this is required to allow all the racers to pathfind to the finish. This isn't terribly important, although I'll show you the terrain. So this is what the course looks like. The entire thing is about 100 kilometers in length if you have to go all the way through, which is far too long. So no races will be taking place over the entire length of the course. And the only other relevant tab is this one, which is the instance. So I'll show you the one that actually works, which is this one. And if we now go and check the fleets, you'll see that this one has the finish line over here, and some traps over here. And the starting point that I normally use is on the island that should be in the center of the screen right now. So there's also a marker here, which is in almost the exact same place as one of the two fleets. Not exactly, but this is what's tied to the victory condition. Or rather, all 8 victory conditions. So what happens is that when one racer, in this case the first racer, reaches the finish line or the finish marker, the race manager gets victory. Victory condition is met, as you can see, and this message is displayed. Racer 1 wins. So, with that said, I'll show you a race. Alright, so I've just prepared this map. This is one of the designer instances. Over there's the waypoint marker for the finish line, so we're facing in the right direction. It's all the way over here. The buoy is at 200 meters altitude so that racers with the correct settings will pathfind towards it. Here are the traps, as I've shown you before, and we're in the place that I told you would be, so I'll pause the game and load in the racers. So I'll try this with 4 of these tanks, I think. Let's get a little closer to the water. So one of them here. And another one here. Maybe I'll go up to 6 of them. I do actually want one of them to finish, and that isn't guaranteed. These things are pretty well armed for their size, and are very easily capable of penetrating their own armor. It's a little high up. Should be fine. I hope so. It should be. Okay. Right. So, that's that. Let's disable the HUD and get the race underway. And they all start moving. And this one's actually decided that it's time to start steering. Well, now they all have. And they're shooting at each other, which is precisely the point. Now they like to shoot the fastest target. The target that's in the lead right now. Or rather, the tank that's in the lead right now is the current most popular target, it seems. So that basically means it's dead. There we go. Exactly as predicted. Who's next? That one. And that one's dead. I think we'll only be left one at the end. Oh, also, I'll show you this, because yeah, this one's just gone on land and dealt a massive amount of damage to itself. So something went wrong with this one. And don't know why it went here, but it shouldn't have, because these things are set to avoid shallow water. So that's water with a depth of less than 20 meters. They try to avoid that. Anyway, This one's alive and in the lead. That one over there is falling behind. Not sure why. Probably had its propulsion damaged. And the other one has made it on land and isn't going anywhere. So this is basically the winner. Let's see, yeah, it's at 100%. Another one at 83, which is sometimes enough to finish, but clearly not this time. And this one's at full health, so it's doing perfectly. Right, so it's going to keep fruitlessly shooting in that direction, so I'll just turn the recording off and turn it back on when something interesting happens. Alright, so this tank has just started firing at traps that are in the distance. I'll show you that. This is where the two disabled tanks are, and this is where the other three died. This is where the tank is right now, and this is what it's shooting at, and that's the finish line. Anyway, it's approaching this island, and if it crashes into that, then that will be the end of the race. So let's see what happens. Did it hit? Let's see. Still 100%, so I guess it didn't. The slopes here are quite steep, which means that it's pretty difficult to stay in water of depth of 20 meters or more, which the naval AI is trying to do. But those steep slopes make it difficult for it to judge and increase the likelihood of a crash, which is obviously fun, but not very good for the racer's health. So if you're going to submit a vehicle for this tournament, you should really pay careful attention to how much depth it needs to avoid collisions with the terrain. It's really quite important that you do not misjudge that. And as you can see, sea floor is fairly deep here, so you could probably set it to 50 meters and still complete the race. Anyway, we're closing in on the traps. The sea counter-ops, as I've called them. They're not really mines, they're just rams on a cross of wood. So typically, at least this racer avoids all the traps, this type of racer. And it looks like that's exactly what's going to happen again. So traps are completely ineffective if you just build the same way this thing's built, which means the same sort of depth tolerance, because if you set it to, say, 100 meters, you may actually find that it looks for the deepest water, and I'm pretty sure that that is the deepest, so that's also something that you have to watch out for. But 100 meters is complete overkill. This thing has not run into the terrain for 20 meters. Probably need to do 50 at the very most. Then, not sure if that's a good idea in this place. I think you'll still complete the race, but areas like this one might be difficult to get through. Anyway, we're well past the traps right now, so the racer is closing in on the finish line. Yeah, it's not that far away anymore. And I can see it in the distance. I suspect it's difficult to make out in the video, but there's a vertical line there. And that vertical line is the position of the finish marker. The tank is heading right for it, while still shooting at the traps in the distance. And you can see that there's a small vehicle next to the finish line, if you look carefully. You can see it. And that's actually what the racer is heading towards. It's not the marker itself, it's the finish buoy. Because that thing is 200 meters up. The target prioritization card, which is connected to the same mainframe as the naval AI, is trying to steer it towards it, because that thing vastly prefers high altitude targets, such as that thing. But the gunnery AI is set to not shoot targets at altitudes of 30 meters or greater, which means that it will not fire at this vehicle. And that's a good thing, because if it were to fire at it, it would be disqualified. Because if the finish buoy comes down, no one will be able to make it to the marker, and no one will be able to finish. Speaking of finishing, here we go. So that took less time than the previous test did. I finished in under 10 minutes, last time took 11 minutes, so it's definitely a good idea to make it through intact. And I suspect that it's possible for people to submit entries that can do it in half this time, provided they don't get blown up. So I'm looking forward to seeing what everyone comes up with, and I'll see you in the next